Hello and welcome to today's webinar hosted by eLotus and sponsored by Evergreen Herbs. We are proud to be your source of quality CEU content. Having provided educational courses for over 2 decades, our goal is to help you elevate your knowledge and expand your skill set. With over 250 speakers, 900 courses, and a staggering 3,500 hours of continuing education, we are committed to providing you with the best educational experience possible. I'm Donna Chow, and I'm going to be your host and your moderator for today's class. I am thrilled to be guiding you through today's webinar. Today's webinar is Neoclassical Acupuncture, Level 1 Meridians, Part 2, presented by Dr. Slate Burris. The class will run from 9 to 6 p.m. Pacific time with 4 breaks, and lunch is going to be from 1 to 2 p.m. If you've been enjoying neoclassical acupuncture, you may also like a course we had a few years ago on classical acupuncture led by Dr. Mark Mazard on Vietnamese acupuncture. The roots of Vietnamese acupuncture are actually the true teachings of TCM, and Dr. Mazard teaches how to incorporate these forgotten teachings to a modern clinical setting. I'll include the links to his classes in the chat room and hope you find these resources informative and beneficial to your practice. Before we get started, let me go ahead and highlight some important Zoom features. First, we have the chat room. It's an excellent tool to connect with your colleagues, and I encourage you to set your chat preference to everyone to make it inclusive. Secondly, the Q&A box. This is where you can ask your questions to our speaker. Please limit your questions to relevant topics to keep the session organized and efficient. Lastly, for those who qualify, the CEU quiz will be available the following workday, and I will be sending out an email when that is available. All right, so our speaker today is Slate Burris, and he holds a degree in acupuncture and oriental medicine from the Oregon College of Oriental Medicine and a doctorate from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. He has over 15 years of clinical experience and has established free clinics in the Oaxaca and Michoacan mountains of Mexico. Slate is an expert in Kiko Matsumoto and Dong-style acupuncture and has developed his own 6-element model called Neoclassical Acupuncture, which achieves quick and effective results using a palpatory technique. If you are joining us for Part 2 but did not attend Part 1, it's strongly suggested that you watch the first part of this class at a later time. This will ensure that the information shared in Part 2 in today's class will make better sense. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Slate, would you please share your PowerPoint with us and we can get started with the class.
I think your mic is mute still. Oh, we cannot hear you right now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect. We got it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I turned my microphone off before the class because sometimes I got this automatic changer and sometimes my volume comes on and like you can hear my kids screaming in the morning. So I turned the microphone off. Anyway, welcome to day 2 of the level 1. Day 2 of level 1, part 2. Sounds kind of complicated. But thank you for the introduction, Donna. I'm not sure if I'm an expert on Kiko and Tong, but I used to really love them. Today, I will tell you, yesterday I gave it all I had. And on Wednesday, I just got my voice back after a 4-day course. Well, during a 4-day course, I lost it completely. After 8 hours yesterday, I don't think my vocal cords are completely healed and they're starting to fail again. But with the magic of tea, I did not give myself a treatment. I don't know why. I'm horrible at that. But I'm gonna try to keep my voice. You know, yesterday I was all excited and screaming. I'm gonna try to keep my voice low just to save my vocal cords. But everyone can hear me, no? You can hear it okay? Cool. Yeah, and we may be doing breaks like after 50 minutes. Today's a little bit complicated anyway, so you may want a 10-minute break every 50, just so I can make it to the end of the course. This is exactly what happened last time I lost my voice. It's just like a little croaking, and then it just gets progressively worse. But anyway, so I saw a couple when I was putting the chat up, like getting everything set up. I saw people had some questions. I hope most of the people here have, like as Donna mentioned, done the first part. We're going to do a brief review. That's good, I guess, you know, so you get to see some stuff we did yesterday, but you may not understand it if you weren't in the class yesterday. It may not seem to have much sense because it is kind of a brief review. Also, some people, you know, if you were trying to do this with your fingers or trying to do it from a distance, you know, don't think it's always going to work. Oh, hi, baby. My beautiful assistant bringing me tea. Yeah, don't think it's always going to work. Because if you're just starting off, you know, I'm not trying to sell masterclass, but only on live courses, even if it's not a masterclass, whatever. In live courses, there is a way I teach so you can kind of activate the fingers, but it's so weird. I've never done it online, and I'll never ever do it online. It's really weird. You have to be there to do it. But you know, like I said, some people have this natural thing when they just touch it, and they're really good at it without having without needing that. But anyway, have any of you put to use, tried to open some meridians from yesterday? Anyone? Or were you so tired you just went to sleep, woke up this morning? Yeah, some of you did. Christina, yeah. Mahbuta, yeah. Oh, cool. Veronica. Ah, Veronica, you're smart. You treated yourself. I should have done that. Christina, Ava, yeah. Did it work for you, Ava, with the growth pain on your son by opening up meridians? Open bladder meridian with spleen too. Wonderful. Awesome. I'm glad. This is really key. You know, the information is, you know, if you come to the class and you don't put it to use, it's kind of like going to piano lessons and the teacher says, okay, here's the piece. And if you never play it, well, you know, you can, it's important to put it to use and to put it to use quickly, because once again, this is kind of course, part one, you know, part two builds on part one, but it's important to really practice the stuff from part one, and then part two is going to seem easier. You'll already have some familiarity with what it feels like to miss a point. Did any of you start seeing that you're actually missing points a lot? Like the first time you put the needle in to try to open the meridian, it doesn't work. Did any of you see this? And then you change it a millimeter or two, you change the angle, and suddenly it opens. Did anyone notice that? Christina, yeah. And it's really eye-opening when you see that, because it makes you think, my God, what have I been doing? You know, like how many needles have been hitting or not? You know, when you don't have the feedback, it's like, it's difficult to know, especially when you're putting 15 needles in. You can't have feedback on each of them. You know, you just see, oh, my patient was, you know, was relaxing and whatever, but you're not getting feedback on what each point, if it was actually, you were getting it. One other thing, you know, and sometimes people say, like when I ask this, you know, how many of you put this to use? Sometimes people say, well, I'm on vacation, it's weekend, you know, I don't have patience. Look, I spend more time practicing than I do actually giving treatments to patients. And imagine, I don't know, which country should we use? Whatever, like a Medvedev, I don't know, I'm sorry, well, whatever. Let's say Taylor Fritz. Many people are from California. Taylor Fritz, you know, great tennis player. My favorite is Monfils. Let's use Monfils. Monfils, you know, do you think he spends all of his time, he never practices, he only goes and plays in tournaments? No. You spend warm-up time, you spend hours and hours practicing your forehand, hours and hours practicing your backhand, and then you go into the tournament. And it's kind of like, I think of acupuncture as kind of the same thing. I spend so much time just saying, oh, get some friends together. And like, I have all these things I want to test. I'll get 4 or 5 people together and just have, you know, a couple hours of practicing and trying new stuff. I think it's really important, and again, yesterday was such a basic level. You're not really going to use it much in the clinic except for, symptomatic stuff on the gastro, things like that. But it's really important to just practice with family members, with friends, with whatever, to really perfect the technique and getting it, down. And the great thing about that is you don't feel the pressure, unless you're treating your parents and they're very judgmental of you and saying acupuncture doesn't work or something. But in general, with your friends and family members, it's like it's easier to get into that flow. It's easier just to enjoy it and look at it as a game. All right, if I miss it, who cares? Let me try it. Let me change the angle. Because when you're with a patient, it can be a little bit more pressure. You don't enjoy it as much. And also that pressure kind of keeps you out of that flow of kind of like just getting into it and enjoying the game. Hope that makes sense. So I'm really happy that people were saying, well, I did. Yeah, I tried it on my son. I tried it with someone. So that's wonderful. And if you enjoyed that, you're going to enjoy today even more because it gets more fun today. Yeah, yesterday, it's fun. I used to think that was the whole system, but there's so much more to it. And today, at least we're going to get into so much more, what's going on with and a deeper level of the meridians. So we don't have to think in terms of symptoms. Yesterday, someone noticed, the patient had vein, like I guess it was a vein, probably pain in a vein on her left leg, and I was opening up meridians on the right because that's what we're going to be learning today. You can ignore the symptoms and just go for a deeper level, just finding through palpation what meridians are closed, and when you open that way, you can actually open everything. But it's a really big step sometimes for some people to move away from symptomatic treatments because that's, it's normal. I think when certain systems came up that are so good at treating symptoms, everyone jumped on board because it was like, look, when I was just using, when I was this, I had some of my mentors tell me this. When I was using TCM, I would do 10 treatments and people would kind of get better. And when I changed to certain symptomatic based treatments, like suddenly everyone's getting better. And so there's a big, the party train of symptomatic treatments. Once you've gotten used to it, it's weird moving to one where you're saying, someone's telling you, just ignore the symptoms 100%. Don't even think about them. Go on to something else, look at something else on a deeper level, and that should get immediate results treating the symptoms. Sometimes it feels like a bit of a leap of faith. So I'll be asking for that leap of faith today. I'll be doing, I think we have like 6 or 7 patients in the afternoon. So it's not a leap of faith so that you can see that it works. Again, this should work in about 60% of the cases. Molly's asking, hello, Molly. So we don't confirm it's the correct point of palpating that there's tenderness. No, do not use tenderness to look for the correct point. No, okay, in this system. When you're doing it with, using imaging, yeah, definitely you would do that, I guess. In this system, definitely not. They're points. And almost always, like I mentioned yesterday, the point is going to be falling into the hole. It's going to be in the, the crevice between phalanges and head of a metacarpal or metatarsal, depending. There's these easy identifiable markers. And in the advanced course, I talk about and I show that every point on the body is a point. It's easy to prove this. It's easy to show it. And then go through a reason why the Chinese picked some of these, because they're repeatable. They're repeatable. You just fall into the hole. But in the classics, you can't just, well, they do it sometimes maybe, but you can't always just say, slide into the hole, because that's pretty difficult, it can be easily misinterpreted when you're reading it in a text. So in a text, and even in my book, the part I least enjoyed when writing Neoclassical Acupuncture was writing about point location, because I was writing about something I don't even care about in terms of giving these standard tutun beneath the, triquetral bone or whatever. I don't use any of that. But because it's a book, I had to write something objective, because if I just say slide into the hole the way I'm teaching it here, no, again, it's easily misinterpreted which hole, how much pressure when I slide, a lot of questions arise. So, in these texts, you need to have this thing of these measurements. Again, I don't think anyone was in the old days was taking out little elastic measuring tapes. They probably had their ways of doing it. But again, when you write the text, you need some kind of objectifiable, thing. Is programming your unconscious part of classical acupuncture? I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily part of any. I mean, I guess you're always programming your unconscious. Any model, I mean, any religion you take on, any model, any paradigm is programming the unconscious. You're giving it a theater in which to operate. So, I guess any belief system, especially systems, rather than, because a system itself, like a paradigm, let's say Christian, it is an entire, universe of way of looking at the world. And so any paradigm you take on, I guess, is programming the unconscious. You can program bits and pieces, or you can program paradigms, and just naturally taking on a belief system is doing that, I think, anyway. Simon, did that answer your question? I don't know if classical acupuncture, anything is a way of looking at the world. These are just lenses through which to see things, and so that's the unconscious. Anyway, so yeah, definitely do not look for tender points. And people have said that, and I'm like, well, look, is it tender here? Okay, put a point in it. It doesn't work. So I'll go over some points today. Like I said yesterday, there's not many points we're going to need. And so I didn't spend a lot of time yesterday going over like 60 different points, because you won't be using them today. So what you'll be using today is very limited, and I will go deeply in depth. And I actually did it yesterday. But once you know what they are, so that you'll pay extra special attention to them, I'm gonna, do a little extra time on those. Did anyone try it? And it's just like, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. I couldn't open any meridians in the leg. I don't know what's happening. Anyone? Anyone? Tammy, no, you put needles in and just nothing would open. Look, here's the thing. Although today is more complicated, it's going to be easier for you, Tammy, because two things. I can almost guarantee, I didn't see you, I'm not psychic, but I can almost guarantee you're missing the point. And sometimes, and I do live courses, someone's like, it doesn't work. And I'll see them put a needle in, and I was like, well, you're like 2 centimeters off the point. Of course it's not going to work. Now, I'm not saying you're 2 centimeters off. You could just be, half centimeter off. And some of the points I've changed. So again, Tammy, let's see what happens after today. If it's only 6 different points you need to know, and I show you the technique for each one, there's no way you're going to miss it. There's no way you're going to miss it. As long as you use the technique. Some of the ones, while I was developing the system, I had, I still got my notes upstairs, I think, but I just had charts and charts of I put these graphs and I would check each pair. Remember, sometimes people are asking, is it better to choose this, or is it, if it's this time of day, to choose this series? And I would just go over, and each pair, I would open each meridian back and forth, and I would do this in my graphs, I would do it 10, 15 times and just check off each time it worked. In some points, I would notice it would not work. And I was like, well, wait a minute. If 90% of these pairs work, or 95, and this 5% don't work, then maybe I'm using the wrong point. And so then I just kind of changed the point a little bit. For example, one example, and we can look at this, but we don't even need this point. But for example, if you use, let's say the Jing well of large intestine, where's the camera? Oh, camera's over here. If you use the Jing well of large intestine here, that's one that's not going to work very often. So I put it up. And I think some systems use it here. I don't know if it's Japanese or some of TCM, I've forgotten. And so some of the points I've changed, because the thing is, it's either the system's wrong or the point's wrong. And so it's just kind of, if it's 95% of the points are the system's working, those 5%, it was just moved the point a centimeter sometimes. So it's a way of really objectively getting the right point. I'm not saying TCM's teaching the point wrong. I'm saying within this system, that point isn't right. So, Mark Anthony, I'm curious, you provided us with a map that uses some modern symbols like a shower head. Have you come across maps that use classical symbols that you think are also useful? Thank you again for yesterday. No, you know what? And here's the thing. I just invented the map because it was an easy way to do it. I mean, you could say, I think it's helpful when your unconscious is more familiar with these things. So let's say we use some kind of like, I use a Chinese urn, a death urn or something like that as metal. And then I don't know, the sweet dew of heaven, it sounds more, esoteric, and it sounds kind of more cool to think about than a freaking shower head with water falling on a tree. But the thing is, I think most of us are Western, and I think our unconscious just is like, it's so easy to see this and to pick up on it. And actually later in the course, I'm sorry to mention in the advanced, I actually turn the term neoclassical on its head and start using it as neoclassical as in Western terms. Because neoclassical is actually, there's two ways of looking at it, knowing classical Chinese, or it's, as it's used as in a neoclassical architecture style, etc., or even Platonic, with philosophy. It's, I actually turn it on its head and start using it in terms of Western terms and Western gods. I start using as metaphors. But no, so here's the thing, there's nothing magical about saying a shower head and the water coming down on top of the tree. You can use whatever metaphor you want. So I just use that because it just came to my head. And so normally whatever the unconscious presents you with is probably the way it's actually telling you the metaphor to use. So I don't want to force this metaphor on you. It's, if you have another metaphor and you want to do like a Chinese death urn or a magic mirror as metal or something like that, I mean, you can do that. It doesn't make any difference. It makes zero difference at all. All it is a mnemonic technique. There's nothing magical in the theater, in the images themselves. So change it as you will. What other reasons are seen as compromising the effectiveness other than the point? That's the only thing. I mean, you could have misdiagnosed a meridian, I guess, but if you hit the point, it'll open. Now, I did give a caveat on this level, on yesterday's level, that if you say, all right, there's back pain and I'm just going to open up the whole bladder meridian, it doesn't mean the back pain's going to go. There's a lot of other stuff involved. So where it's going to work 100% of the time, oh no, there is an exception. There is an exception. But where it's going to work 100% of the time is when it's a very clear single meridian. It's not like, you can have 3 meridians and you can open up one meridian and leave the others closed. I showed you that. I think I showed you that yesterday, or I'll show you that this morning if I didn't. So you can pick which meridians you want to open. Oh, once I show you the system, I'll show you, of opening 2, 3 meridians, you can do these things I call meridian sandwiches, where you open up stomach, open up bladder and leave gallbladder closed, or open up gallbladder and leave stomach and bladder closed, so you can see the exact size of the meridians. So those, in those terms on the legs, these sort of these bands, they're really, those will open 100% of the time. There's one exception, which could happen. When you find every single meridian on the leg closed, there's something called a half moon, but you probably won't run into that. It starts going way off point. Did you advocate for reading fiction yesterday to help give your unconscious practice with creating images in order to have less conscious, if Monday night and definitely on Tuesday? Huh? One second. Oh wait, oh no, I'm sorry, the chat just moved and I was reading half of one message and half another. Let me do that again. Kel. Is that right? Or Kel? Yeah, okay. Kel, did you advocate for reading fiction yesterday to help giving your unconscious practice with creating images in order to have less conscious interruption in treatment? No. Okay, yeah, I just kind of mentioned in passing, but I'll say, I just think there's many ways to get in contact with the unconscious. I think art is like the best, drawing, painting, but I'm not recommending be a painter if you want to be an acupuncturist. But it does set up, I used to do automatic writing and I would just let myself go and just scribble, just giving the unconscious all the leeway that it wanted. And it would start, cursing and start saying all kinds. And then it started saying some weird stuff and I stopped. And once when I was doing it, suddenly it was like, I'm jetted from Khatam. And I looked that up, and the spelling's wrong. I can't find it now. When I looked it up, it was like this demon that was, and then Khatam, Khatt. When I looked it up, it was something like burial grounds in Sudan. And I was like, oh crap, I'm not doing this anymore. But there's certain things like automatic writing, just painting and letting whatever comes up. They're obvious. I mean, this is well known, obvious ways of letting the unconscious start coming up. But another is reading. It's a little less extreme. Just reading. Your unconscious is building up images around the book. I mean, think of any book you've read, and then you go see the movie, and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't like the book. Not just the story, but this isn't the way the character looked to me. This isn't the way that house looked to me. The unconscious is building up an entire world around that. So you're getting these words coming in, and the unconscious is building this universe. And that's a way of letting the unconscious start giving you images. So I'm not saying, oh, go read a book and you're suddenly, you're suddenly psychic or something. But it is something I think, like I used to have this thing, a long time ago. I wouldn't get out of my bed until I'd read 100 pages of stuff. And so it was like, I just feel like it creates this universe in your head. It's amazing. And so, whenever I won't go too deeply into this, but whenever I see something, I can see it really clear. Like I can have my eyes open and see you don't see it physically in front of you, but it really helps you to visualize and helps you to see things. When I say see things, it's not saying, something mystical, but you imagine something and you can actually see it. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, so this isn't like the crux of the course, but I was just I kind of mentioned that in passing. But yeah, I mentioned that mainly for that reason. It's a good way of being able, because some people I'm like, trying to visualize this, like, I don't see it, I can't see it. I'm like, just to visualize a shower head with water, but I can't see it. And so I think reading definitely helps that. In that case, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I watched some of your YouTube video last night, very helpful to review, and you do a sweeper point for errant. Oh, I'll show you the sweeper today. Yeah, I'm going to go over that today, Molly. I'm going to go over that. Could you play? Yeah, Candace. Yes, you could Dungeons and Dragons. And I always wanted to play. I could only play when there was a dungeon master. I could never be the dungeon master when I was a kid. I haven't played it 40 years, 30 years. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, just anything like that where your mind has to construct. I think that's actually a great example where your mind is constructing this. Now, the goal isn't, oh, I want to start doing this with my mind. The thing is just throw a needle in, basically. But I just wanted to give you the starting points on this because it is kind of a process and just kind of mention it. So it's not necessary to do any of this. You don't need to start reading fiction. Just throw a needle in. It works, it's acupuncture. I just kind of mentioned that. All right. So William, you did the course before, didn't you? Are you the same William from New Jersey? William that joined late? Oh, hello again. Hello again. So again, I hope most of you have already seen part one. If we're going to be doing some little review of what we did yesterday. I'm just going to be kind of brief about it. If you have questions about it and you did do the course yesterday, great, ask away. If it's just like, what are you talking about? What is this? Look at the video later. But yeah, so during the review, you can definitely ask questions. Strategies from NLP and hypnotherapy. Sure, you can't see the shower head, but if you could see, yeah, that's true. And that's actually what I do sometimes. Yeah, that's true. If you could see it, what would it look like? There was remember I told you yesterday, something similar. I told you yesterday that I stopped using any kind of protection. Like, no, I don't imagine anything. I don't use a rosary where I used to, because I got sick of picking up all kinds of bad energy. When I was treating like 50, 60 people a day, I would often feel like really tired and just kind of worn down and whatever. And so I was like, screw it. I took my rosary off. Maybe I still have it somewhere. I don't know where it is. But not rosary. Rosary. Anyway, there was a silver cross. And I said there were two times that I have picked up something bad. One of them was kind of similar. there was a woman who I was treating for hemorrhoids, and it would go away when she was there, but I'd give her another treatment. I mean, I'd say come back in 2 days, and it was like coming back, and that happened like 3 or 4 times. Normally hemorrhoids 2-3 times it's gone. And I was like, and this one was a little bit strange. I think I was on treatment number 4, and she started. I put the needles, and she started going, oh, and started like making these weird noises. And I just walked up to her and I said, "Where is it?" And so if you say, "Is there a spirit in you? Is there something weird going on?" You know, it's like, what are you talking about? You know, see the shower head. I don't see it. And you're right, Robert. If you say, "Oh, what if there were one? What would it look like?" Well, the one I just said, "Where is it?" So there's no time for the brain, you know, to come in and start analyzing. And I didn't say what it was. I didn't give it a name. It was just like, "Where is it?" And so the body automatically, she's like, "In my neck." And I did something really stupid. I grabbed her by the neck. I had a trash can. I put it there and I said, "Get rid of it." I said, "Bótalo." It sounds much more extreme in Spanish. Bótalo, you know, get it out. And suddenly I had this thing come up my arm, and it like almost popped. I don't even know how to describe it, around my eye. And my eye, I looked in the mirror when I got home, my eye was like half closed, like I'd been hit. And I had this like interference running in me. It's hard to describe. Like, I'm normally pretty good at just watching myself, like going like 2 centimeters out of my body and watching. And it felt like there was interference. I actually had to go pay a shaman. I waited like a week. I was like, you know, "You're welcome here, whatever you are. I don't care." And I just kept observing. And after a week, I was like, "Screw this crap. I'm tired of this." And so I went and had someone, and it actually worked. They actually got it taken out. So I guess, you know, these kind of things, you know, it's when you're trying to, like Robert, you could say, if there were something, what would it look like? Another is kind of a direct approach of, where is it? But, you know, you're demonstrating clairvoyance, but I guess you don't want to. No, it's the, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure about what clairvoyance is. But, I mean, I think picking up bad energy is not necessarily clairvoyance, but it happens to everybody. But I always ask nurses. A lot of nurses take the course and Mexico. I'm like, have you ever picked up bad energy by taking someone's blood out? No, never. And then I'm doing a treatment and someone's over in a room. He's like, "I just got the energy from the person." It's like, I really think it's a perspective. And like we were talking about, a belief system is kind of like this paradigm. You know, you're setting up a world. When someone was asking about programming the unconscious, and the fact that I start, again, like I said yesterday, setting up this war going on, of, oh, I'm protecting myself, it's good and evil, and I'm going to, you know, pray before the thing. I'm programming my unconscious that there is a war, and you can get kind of hit. Anyway, we're practicing energy medicine. Yep, we definitely are. I believe this is. I mean, I don't know. Energy is kind of a black box, chi energy. And so, yeah, I mean, have you seen, I haven't used the word chi in this course at all. Betty, yeah, so you don't pick up any negative energy. Yeah, but it's very brief. Like, you may see that. I don't know. It depends on who comes in. Once every month or so, like I give courses every weekend. And like a couple of times people have come in and you can there's this, I actually run off. I haven't done it, and this was only 1 day. But often you'll see me disappear and go into the bathroom and wash my hands because I just feel gooey. It's literally like gooey on my hands. And it's normally when I'm pressing this area, it's like sludge. And it's like this horrible, horrible feeling. But if you wash it off quickly, I never pick it up. I pick it up briefly and I just wash my hands and then I feel better. But so I do, you know, briefly pick up stuff, but no, I don't. And my wife has actually said, "Oh my God, that person had the most horrible energy." And she comes around the house and is like putting incense, and she's not woo-woo mystical at all, zero. But it's like, she's just like, that person just, and I'm like, oh God, I could feel it too. It's horrible. So you can feel it sometimes, but you don't really pick it up. I guess feeling it is picking it up in a way, but it doesn't stay. It used to stay. Anyway, I remember in Mexico when I'm sorry, stories, but I was in this little town. I treated 40, 50 people, and I really felt like crap. And I was wearing my rosary. This is the time I think I decided to stop doing it. And so I went to this other little village, Santa Maria de Patapa. and there was like just a little concrete blocks construction where they were making tlayudas, which is this beautiful, typical dish in Oaxaca. And I asked the owner, I said, do you know anybody that can give me a cleaning? I feel really bad, really bad. And the one was kind of shy, and she said, yeah, I do it. I'll clean you after. There's a lot of people in that area, they know how to clean you or give you cleanings. But she was really shy, and so I ate my tlayuda, and she didn't say anything. And so I was like, well, I'll pay for my tlayuda, whatever, $2 or $1. And I said, all right, I'll see you later. And she goes, don't you want your cleaning? And I said, yeah, sure. I just didn't want to bother you, because she was really reserved and kind of shy. And so she takes me around the back, and suddenly she transformed this shy, unassuming woman. She gets a bottle of cane liquor and just spews it all over me and just starts. And if you had a clean, I guess you've experienced it, hitting me with these branches. And she's like, go to the dogs, go to the pigs, leave my doctor alone. And, went on. And I actually really did feel good afterwards. I mean, I think some people really do have a gift of getting rid of some bad energy. Maybe it was all the alcohol getting spewed in my face. Maybe that was what made me feel better. But it was good. And I just thought, you know what? I'm sick of this crap. I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm just not going to think of it. I'm done. I'm not playing. Like a child just throwing the chess pieces, no protection, no nothing. I'm just not playing here. And this is really important. Like I said, well, I think everyone's aware there's bad energy, there's spirits. I mean, most of us believe in that. The thing is, you want to stay a few steps away. I mean, example in Mexico, it's a well-known phrase, keep two, or not phrase, but a well-known idea of, you want to keep, between like the bad people, maybe some narcos or something, you don't want to have a friend that's a friend, because that gives you 2 steps close to it. You know what I mean? And if that, like, I was dating a girl who was messed up in that, and I stopped going out with her because anyway. So I stopped going out with her because of that. I was like, all it takes is one of those guys gets jealous and they come after me. It's the exact same thing here. Now, this is a metaphor, but remember the domino image I'm giving you. So here's the symptoms. Here's maybe bad spirit, whatever, if you believe in that. The symptoms. Here's my emotions. Here's all this. I don't want to deal with it. Like, if someone tells me their emotions, it seems like, I had a patient say, you're so cold. I'm like, sorry, I don't want to seem too loving and empathetic. I mean, I hug my patients and whatever. In Mexico, it's normal, just a hug and a kiss when they come in, whatever. But if someone's telling me a story, I just look at them in the eyes and let them talk. But I try not to get too empathetic. All this stuff's over here. And what we're doing with acupuncture was going to that first domino. Even, in a sense, what we'll do today, you're not even have to think about their emotions. You don't have to think about their problems. You don't have to think about their symptoms. Your mind is way over here on this domino. So my only goal is throw this domino. It's going to wipe everything out. But all this other crap over here, if you start getting wound up in it and the empathy and, oh, poor thing and whatever, you're not going to last. So I'm normally just like, here, they're talking all about this, but I don't care about this. I'm looking for that first domino. And here's the good thing about the dominoes. I just sit back here and throw the domino. Whatever's downstream doesn't know, can't find me. Whatever's downstream, I was way back here throwing the domino. And so I don't have to deal with it. So like, it's not that I don't believe in this stuff. I just think I'm trying to program you with a mindset where you don't think of it and you don't buy in. Because once you go into these superficial worlds, it does affect you. And so stay out of it and just don't think about it and just throw the domino from here, and whatever's way downstream will get you. I have some friends that are shamans here, and one guy actually did scare me. He said, Slate, you treat a lot of weird stuff. And this guy's actually really good. He said, you treat a lot of weird stuff. He said, be careful, because when somebody he said, I treated a girl that had, a death sentence on her or something. They'd done some black magic. He goes, when I treated it, his teacher called him to go this 5-hour trip. He goes, someone's actually after you now. Because he said there's a tracer within what he did, that they can know that he was screwing around with what he did. So, and I told him, I said, you know what? I don't even want to know about this. I don't even want to think about it. Because once I start thinking of that, then I'm kind of, then you're playing the game. So I just don't want to play the game. That's it. one other cute little thing. One of my favorite, I have his book. Has anyone ever read Michael Talsig? He's a great anthropologist, but he goes way beyond anthropology in Columbia. He was at Columbia. I'm not sure if he's still alive or still around. This is Mimesis and Alterity, a great book. But he wrote a book, The Devil and Commodity Fetishism in Colombia. And he interviews, he goes into the field, and they're talking about magic and using, normally done through ayahuasca, and how to screw people over. And he says the people in the camp, they've seen these, effects, strong effects when someone does try to do magic on them. But they say it doesn't work on the patrones. It doesn't work on the heads, of the estates. It doesn't work on their magic. He said they're too powerful. Their magic won't work on them, but it'll work on the populace. Well, it's just they don't believe it. They don't believe in it, and so it's like you're protected from it. They can't get in. So it's like their belief system allows it in anyway. I will tell you one quick thing. In Portland, now who's in Portland? Anyone in Portland? Except Molly, I guess. And there was a guy in Portland when I was there. He's dead now. I would not think he's around. He did some weird NLP stuff, but it was beyond that, like way beyond that. Oh, you're in Ecuador, Molly. Oh, cool. Which part? Oh, you're in Ashland, Angela. That's right. You guys were in Portland. So there was this guy, and he was like, he did this weird stuff. Maybe some of you have heard of this. He would do this stuff of like, let me talk. He would half hypnotize the person. He'd say, let me talk with the chief engineer of your body, the chief engineer of the mind. And when the chief engineer is here, raise your finger. And so the person would raise their finger. And he'd say, chief engineer, do a photocopy of, are you able to fix this problem? And are you able to do this? And these things, chief engineer doesn't exist. But by the fact of saying, I'd like to speak with the chief engineer would come up. One of his favorite cases was curing a guy who he fell on the ground as a baby. He couldn't read even until he was 11 years old. And so the chief engineer says, yeah, I'll help you. And he says, he calls up the chief archivist who makes photocopies of the brain before the accident, and makes photocopies and says, bring these 2 copies together. And the guy actually got better. So I was curious to meet this guy. And he's kind of older, and he was talking to some people, and his assistant was there. And I said, I really want to talk to whatever, I've forgotten his name. He goes, oh, he's older. He was like, this is like the evil disciple. He's like, he's older. I'm doing some new stuff. And I said, well, what are you doing? He goes, well, will you give me permission to get into your unconscious? And I said, yeah. He goes, I don't even have to ask. He was kind of bragging. I don't even have to ask. But I said, yeah. And he just did this. This was at the Portland Expo, actually, where it happened. And I did this. He did this, and suddenly I felt like I ballooned up like a big balloon. Like literally, I don't think I got any fatter, but I could feel myself expanding. And then he did this, and he turned my hand like this, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I was moving, but I felt like I was being tipped over. And then I got angry, and I said, put me upright, and stop. But yeah, but there's ways, because I was buying into his game and I was allowing him to do it, but there's ways of not getting it. Anyway, so we won't go into too much unconscious stuff. But yeah, I would just say don't think about it and stay out of it and enjoy your treatments. And just think, all I'm doing is putting a piece of stainless steel into this person's body. I'm not healing them. I'm not doing anything. I'm putting a piece of stainless steel into their body in order to turn on a little light, like to hit a switch. And that switch is going to set into process this sort of chain reaction. And the chain reaction is doing the work. I'm not. Now, if I approach saying I'm a healer and I'm going to heal you, now I've just screwed up. I've really screwed up because now I'm in the middle of the game. Anyway, I think everyone knows how to deal with their own bad energy anyway. But anyway, and so Salim is, instead of grabbing the patient's neck, what would you have done in hindsight? I would have probably just left them there. I don't know. I would have probably just left them. I probably wouldn't grab. I don't grab necks anymore and say get it out. Or I might have recommended to them to go. I'm an acupuncturist. I'm not. I don't. I should. I've learned to stay within my area of expertise, and I would have probably have recommended that my friend, the one that's really good, to recommend that they go with him. Anyway, interesting enough, my friend who has these protections set up, like yesterday I was showing you how to shut down people's meridians. He's the first person I tried and I tried, I kept trying, I couldn't do it. And he's like, you won't be able to. And I was just like, boom, I was doing everything. It always works. I couldn't do it. And he's like, well, I've got protection set up, and which were unconscious. Anyway, so yesterday. Again, I mentioned there's many levels, and just to situate ourselves, there's many levels in neoclassical acupuncture. The level we're working with this weekend are meridians. Again, I call it the most superficial level, but it's not, compared to most others, it's not superficial. It's actually pretty deep. With what we'll be learning today, as I said, you'll be able to do a 1 needle treatment. Should work in at least 60% of the cases. Write that down. Tell me I'm wrong if you know. Invariably, a couple people aren't able to do it. Invariably, other people say they're 80%. There's this wide range, kind of depending on how you get it. You can give 20 people a piece of music to play. Maybe not everyone will play it exactly the same. But anyway, so within meridians, yesterday we were looking at how to open 1 meridian with 1 needle. Today we're going to see how to open 2 with 1 needle, and then 3 meridians with 1 needle, and then 4 meridians with 1 needle. And then that's going to lead to every meridian with 1 needle. Is that possible to do in a day? Yes, it is, as long as my voice does not give out completely. Oh, Ronald is asking, can't you locate the point via electrostim point finder? Ronald, I actually played with that once. I had a student who had, and I don't know exactly about all these, I'm not a master of these things, but this guy, and maybe you guys know what this is, they put wet towels or something in your hands and put these things, and it would like go over the body and say which meridians are closed, and then they use this point finder to say how to find the point. I don't know if that's what you're talking about in this thing. It's like, and it would say this is the point. It did not work. It didn't. It was misidentifying meridians that were closed, and the points were off. So could some point finders work? Maybe, but the one when I did it that one time, and this was a long time ago, I told the person, please don't, if you want to use that in your clinic, whatever, but when you're doing, opening up meridian, why don't you just slide into the hole and then use the point? So you don't, and once you know where the point is, you don't need the point finder. And I actually think the point finder, I'm sure it's measuring something, but it may not be measuring the point. Because again, every single point is a point. I'll show you this today. It's impossible to needle a point that's not a point. What does that mean? And you can do this for yourself. Actually, I'll let you do this. Find a patient that has every single, like 3, whatever, all meridians and 1 leg closed. Put a point anywhere on the body. Doesn't matter. Put it here, put it there. Just pick a point that you think is not a point. Now, when you do this, the patient has to have, all yin and all yang closed on at least 1 leg. That's the caveat, because you're going to see what effect does it have on the body. So, put the point, whatever, in the cheek, whatever, somewhere that's no point. You're going to find meridians opening. And so that's why I say it's a point. A point is a geolocation on an XY axis, but a point implies when we say, oh, but this is not an acupuncture point. Well, obviously it's a point, but the implication is it doesn't have a use, or it's not doing something, or maybe in a more narrow, it's not a known acupuncture point. But it's impossible to place it. If you ever find a point on the body that doesn't, let me know, because I'd love to know. That would be interesting. But every point is going to open something. And again, the magic of feedback, of finding a patient has all, let's say on the left, like all meridians closed, just put a point in. I'll show you in a minute. Everything's a point. So this electrostim, yeah, it's measuring some point, but is it the point? Is it the point? And again, as someone was asking, can we press on and see where the for some systems, that's probably great. Like for TON, the example they gave, it's great. That's a great way to find the point. And this, it's just all we're looking for is the point. And the best way to find the point is normally, and I'll go over this, sliding in the hole. There's objective ways of finding these points. It doesn't take intuition, it's just like you slide into the hole. And I'll go over that today. So again, keep in mind, I just don't want to confuse this. Like, this is not, meridians are not the main crux of the neoclassical system. I actually don't even only dedicate one sentence to them in the book. But I don't want to belittle the fact that some people, even when we go into elements, like, I'm going to keep doing meridians because I get such great results. I mean, this will change your practice just doing meridians. But again, if you want to get to 95%, there's a need to evolve a little further. But again, 60, at least I'm saying 60% of the cases should resolve in the first treatment with one needle. Does that mean you don't need further treatments? No, it's normally 3 to 5 treatments. So someone, someone says, oh, I did a treatment, the pain came back the next day. For me, that means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. If someone says pain comes back the next day, doesn't happen often, but if it does, I'm like, okay, we'll come back. Now, the second treatment should last, 3 to 5 days. If the first was only 1 day, if the second only lasts 1 day, I tell the patient I'm not going to charge you. I mean, I don't know when that's ever happened, but if it did happen, years ago, I say, I won't charge you, just come and let me see what's happening. I either messed up or it's not treatable. But if, the first one's only 1 day, it's rare, but if it happens, well, the next one should be 3 to 5. The third one should be 2 weeks. The fourth should be, after the fourth, I'd say don't come back unless your pain comes back. So, it's not so much about how long a treatment lasts the first time. Normally it does last, but if it doesn't, it's no big deal. Your real test there is how long does the second last compared to the first? If I'm walking over here and I take 1 step forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back, I'm never going to arrive. Now, if I take 3 steps forward and 3 steps back and then 5 steps forward, now I'm going to make it. So it's just really is knowing, how much the second one lasts compared to the first. Robert says, since our test for success is to palpate after needling and discomfort is gone, when or how do we utilize the arm channels? Are they different due to theory only because palpating sensitivity is a bit more tricky? It's due to trickiness. It's just there's not as much meat. I palpate arms, and I used to, 15, 12 years ago, and I was like, I'm just not picking anything up. So it's not a really reliable. On the legs, you do get, if you were palpating legs yesterday, Robert, did you see you get these bands, and they're really clearly identifiable bands on the upper thigh, and so there's no doubt about it. On the arms, yeah, it's happened. I picked up some stuff, but it's just not common enough so that I take it as, I use it as a treatment. And here's the thing, it's normally like, maybe, I don't know if this is the reason or not. I'd imagine, but I'm not sure. You don't really know the strength of a bridge until it's put to the test. You always see these funny videos, they build a bridge and then at the inauguration, the inaugural car drives over and it collapses or something, or a wind comes, well, wrong frequency, but, and you don't really know the strength until it's to the test. And so our legs are being put to the test. That's the pressure. There's, they're holding up our entire body. The arms are, depending on your job, you're using them a lot, but the legs have this constant pressure. They're constantly, and so there you're going to, I think, find the weakness. I don't know if that's the reason or not. It doesn't really matter, but it's in the legs where you can get a definite diagnosis. So how do you determine when to tell the patient to come back? Everyone's got their own way. Look, Christina, here's the way I used to do it. I used to do one treatment. Everything disappeared. I'd say, don't come back unless your problem returns. I stopped doing that after a couple months because I just felt, for me, acupuncture is sacred. I don't want to start doing, I'm going to sell you 10 treatments. I don't want to rip people off. And I'm not saying that's ripping people off. I'm sorry. I didn't want to be giving them more treatments maybe than they needed for their problem. Not everyone had a lot of money. And so I'd say just everything, your migraine's gone. Okay, don't come back unless the problem comes back. There's 2 problems with that. One, a month later, 2 months later, from would come, your treatment didn't work. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I've forgotten. What did you have and when did you come? Well, I was here 2 months ago. I had migraines since I was a kid. And it's like, oh, and it didn't work. Well, why didn't you come back earlier? And they're like, well, it just came back yesterday. I'm like, no, the treatment worked. That's just part of the process, is for you to come back if it comes back. So I was trying to minimize your treatments. And so people would say, oh, it didn't work because you told me to come back if it came back, and 2 months later it came back. So now what I do? Oh, another problem with that. I'll never forget. This got me to, well, this was a warning to me. I was treating a woman for an ovarian cyst, I believe. Something with the ovaries. Anyway, I treated her, everything, any pain, tension, everything was gone, but she needed more for the cyst. And I said, look, come back next week. And she looked at me like, and then I said, why are you looking at me like that? I mean, why that look? I said, you don't have to come back. I'm just recommending you come back. And she said, well, my friend told me you do everything with one treatment. And I'm like, no. Maybe your friend said there's 20% of cases, it's one treatment. Yeah. The vast majority are 3 to 5. So, if you don't want to come, and I don't remember if she came back, but I don't want to be known as the one treatment dude, because people get angry if it's more than one treatment. And so, classic example, there's an acupuncturist here. A girl said, oh, he's a great acupuncturist. And I said, she goes, oh, my boyfriend had arm pain and he got rid of it. And I said, well, that's the only thing that matters. He got rid of it. That's awesome. How many treatments? 30. He sold a package of 10 treatments. He did another 10 treatments and then 10 treatments of reinforcement. And I guess he was happy with that because the expectation was, we're going to do a 10 treatment series and then we'll do another 10 treatment series. Great for business, but and then this woman's angry with me because I didn't do it in one treatment. Why? Because the expectation was one treatment because of her friend, not because I told her that. I always say it should be 3 to 5. It could be more. But it's just be careful of expectation. And I think we all know this. So I normally say, come back in a week. Or I say, you know what I say? If it's somebody I see really needs a treatment, I'm like, come during the courses. I won't charge you. And so that's normally what I do. I say, I have courses almost every weekend, so I'm just like, come to the course. But, if someone has the money, I'd say, come back next week. It's normally come back next week. And if nothing happens, so I do a treatment, say, come back next week. If there's no return during that week, I say, come back in 2 weeks. I do one more treatment and then it's gone. Unless I see something I call the earthquake. There's these weird things I can't go into. There's some weird things. If you see them, I do tell them to come back until that certain weird thing is gone because it can cause problems. But in general, it's like once, and then if 2 weeks go by, so it's normally 3 to 5 treatments, like for complete resolution. It should go in the first, but you may need more. Okay. Example, the woman with multiple sclerosis, I treated her 4 days straight. But again, she was in such horrible shape. I mean, literally, she just said my entire legs were covered in rubber bands. And so it took 3 days to get rid of that, but then you need some kind of maintenance. I didn't treat her for 2 weeks, and the rubber bands just started coming back on her foot. They didn't come up her leg, but on the foot. And if we left that for another, month or something, maybe it'd come back. I don't know. Ava's asking, so if the patient comes back and all her meridians are open, what would you do? I've actually told someone I can't treat you. If someone comes back and everything's open, I wouldn't treat them. Unless you're really hard up for money, and you're like, I need it, But if everything's open, you can only close it. I mean, it's like if all the doors in my house are open, should I open them again? If the patient comes back and everything's open and they have symptoms, and they're like, oh, well, everything's open, but well, then just do some kind of recipe, I guess. That would be weird, but if that were the case, you look. Here's the thing. This is only meridians. There's so many other levels where things can be off. As you see me palpating the abdomen, there's elements, there's obstacles, there's alarms, there's a lot of things. It's weird for someone not to have something. Like I've only seen 3-4 people in my life. One was an assassin. One was my brother, who's like Forrest Gump before he was married. One was actually someone taking a lot of antidepressants, though you can still get meridians but she was taking tons of antidepressants and warfarin. People, that's the thing. People, I think 2 people I've seen to take warfarin and antidepressants and anxiolytics. I think there was another one that was like that. I can see the woman. I can see one of them. Anyway, yeah, I wouldn't do anything to keep. I'll actually show you this today. Part of the course today is is how to shut down meridians. And the best way to shut down a meridian is to open some open meridians. And we'll talk about at what point they close. There's a way to predict it with 100% accuracy when the meridian will close and which meridian will close. We'll do that today after you learn that system. Kevin says, what about massage? I would do some massage when no real problems. Can that be okay? You know what? I used to always say, doesn't matter. But I just discovered a way to shut down people's meridians by touching them on a certain point in their body. And there's several of them, actually. I don't know. Depends on the massage. Look, it depends. If you're doing like some kind of general massage, if you're doing this kind of, you're pressing in here, you're activating a point most likely. The thing is, here's the good thing. Whenever I'm hitting certain points to shut people's meridians down, it's just like, I was just, it's an experiment for a new thing I'm working on. It's normally when you're hitting one. So if you hit it twice, actually, you're playing with statistics here. If you hit these points twice, they start undoing themselves. So you do a massage, it's kind of statistic. I don't know, because you're touching so many points, the body's not getting a clear signal. Let's say I'm massaging like this, that does nothing. There's no problem with that. I'm 100% sure. But if you're tweaking a tendon or something, you're activating a point. I'll show you today. Well, I don't want to show you because I don't want to show anyone how to do it. Not because it's my secret, but just because I don't want people to be screwing with people. That's why I do it from a, did you see me doing this when I do this to have someone's meridians closed down? I'm doing it because I don't want you to see where I'm doing it. So I do it off the body. But here's the thing. You can answer this yourself. Was it Ronald that asked that? Forgotten. Who asked me that? Who asked me that? Oh, Kevin. I would say check the meridians, check how everything's open, do your massage, and then check your patient's meridians after and see if something closed. That's like you can figure this out yourself, because I can say anything, but do your treatment, everything's open, treatment's over, give a massage, go back and check the leg meridians. If meridians are closing, then you may not want to do that, because you would be closing some stuff down. The only time I had success with one treatment was with a patient. We're not going to enter on infinity. Her pain was gone in 10 minutes. I asked her to come back in 2 days for less. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sorry I didn't read. I'm guarding my voice. You guys can read that on the comments, no? Brianne wants to jump to the material. That might help answer many of the questions people are asking. Yeah. Well, this actually is part of the material, but I also want to make sure everyone's questions are answered from yesterday. But anyway, so Kevin, do your massage after your treatments, and you can look at this. There's a way to objectively find out the effect. Again, just go check the meridians. Check the meridians. Again, you can. I'm saying check the meridians because that's the level we're on. Later I'd say check the elements, check the obstacles, check other stuff. But yeah, it's you can, like, most of these questions, because this system is based on feedback, you can test all of this yourself and see. So, oh yeah, it is time for a break. It is time for a break, because I like to do the first part question and answer, and that's perfect because all of our questions have been answered. Oh, Eva says, so ear seeds can affect ear seeds. Yeah, any point, just keep this in mind, Eva. Every point on the body is a point, and anytime you activate, even a patient, even a patient giving themselves self-massage could do something. I'll just say that. Eva, check this yourself. Do your treatment. Make sure everything's open. Here's the thing, how do I say this without saying bad? If you're doing one of these 15 needle treatments, if you're doing these 10 needle treatments, you throw in ear seeds, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, there's so much a mix there of things, like so many ingredients. To add another ingredient isn't really that bad. This really comes into play when you're doing 1 needle treatments. It's easy to ruin a 1 needle treatment because it's 1 needle. And you put one more ingredient in, that's 50% of the ingredients. When you're doing like 15 needles, you've been opening, closing meridians all over the place. Throw some ear seeds in, it's probably not a big deal. I'll give you an example of this. So do not worry that you've been putting ear seeds in. You're not ruining a treatment. if you can't ruin a treatment if not everything is open. So let's say you've got a patient, they're in a bliss. Every single meridian's open. Every alarm is open. Do not put anything else in. They don't need anything else. Now you've done your treatment, their back pain's gone, but they've, like you're doing recipes, throw ear seeds in. It doesn't matter because they're not in a perfect state. It's here's the problem, when they are in that state, and I'll show you this today. And I showed you yesterday, actually. Remember the patient, I opened everything up and then I touched yin tang and it closed. And then I put Shinmin in the right ear and his right Yang Wei Mai closed. So let's imagine someone's not in that ideal state. Not everything is open. Not all meridians are open. Throw some ear seeds. There's nothing to ruin. You know what I mean? Like you probably won't ruin the symptomatic treatment you did. And there's nothing really to ruin in terms of meridians because the meridians are closed. So you only have to start worrying about this when you start opening up everything. You see what I'm saying? So if the house is dirty, it's hard to get it, the dirt, it's already dirty. If the house is perfectly clean, just spill a little milk and it doesn't look nice. Stanislava, how does it happen that a patient is an ideal state? Every single treatment. It should happen every 100% of the treatment, not 95% of the treatments. And when I say ideal state, I don't mean they're illuminated. I mean every meridian is open, every alarm is open. You touch them anywhere in their body and there's no tension. Shoulders, everywhere. That should happen in 90% of the cases. Once you've got the system down. I'll show you today what I mean by ideal state. It means you can grab them anywhere with nice pressure and, well, not on the breast. There's certain areas that always hurt, but abdomen, legs, arms, shoulders, even if they had it and everything is open. That's the goal of this system, is to achieve that in 95% of the cases. Why not 95? There's weird stuff. There can be like rectifications and there's certain things the body just can't fix. Anyway, let's take a 10-minute break and we're going to come straight back. There were very good questions today. Sometimes I ignore a lot of questions. Let me answer two more. Do you use gallbladder 40 for the PowerPoint? Because it's at the ankle. I don't use either one for the PowerPoint. Good question, Deborah. I don't use gallbladder 38 because there's so many tendons there. It's just not a comfortable point. The great thing is on the system, what we did yesterday, you have all these options. And so you've got plenty of other points you could use. Like, for example, someone mentioned kidney 10. I don't use kidney 10. It's just uncomfortable. You got to bend the knee, open up the leg. There's other points that can do the same thing. So I just kind of, pick the point that's more kind of useful. Do both fires 1 and 2 meridians correspond to the same point? Well, yeah, they do. We'll look at that in a little bit. So let's take a break. Yeah, people are saying too many questions. But I wanted to use this first little session to kind of clear up some things from yesterday, make sure we're all on the same page. And now, after break, 10-minute break, we're going to jump into the material. We'll see you back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes.